All right, we are just 3.5 weeks away from the Iowa caucus. Can you believe it? And even here at The Hill, we've been carefully tracking the latest polls at the Decision Desk HQ. I want to dive now into the crosstabs with the Director of Data Science, Scott Tranter. Scott, thanks for being here. With the current Iowa state of play as it is, if Ron DeSantis does not finish in second place, does he need to get out of the way for the other candidates if any other candidate hopes to stop Trump?
Well, certainly if he does not finish second, he does not meet expectations, and we can expect his money to dry up. You know, it really questions his ability to make it to New Hampshire, much less South Carolina and the other states. Him getting out, what's interesting is a lot of his voters' second choice is Donald Trump. They don't all go to Nikki Haley or Chris Christie or Vivek. So I'm not sure what him getting out does to the rest of the field, but he does need to at least come in second or beat expectations if he's going to go much farther than Iowa.
Well, there's an assumption for Nikki Haley that all of her supporters are never Trumpers and that if Chris Christie gets out, that they would go to Nikki Haley. But does the data and do the crosstabs reflect that?
Interesting enough, the data reflects that for Chris Christie. In other words, if Chris Christie gets out, almost all of his voters go to a Ron DeSantis or a Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley's a little bit different. She has a large chunk of never Trumper voters. Certainly on the donor side, she does. But, you know, if she were to get out, there is depending on what the crosstabs and the margin of error is, anywhere from a quarter to a third of her voters would go to a Donald Trump. So it's not quite as clean as everyone hopes it to be. And same for Ron DeSantis, as I just mentioned. A lot of his voters, if he gets out, don't go to Nikki Haley or someone else. They go to Donald Trump.
So meanwhile, brewing in the background are all of these other candidates like RFK. When you're looking at the polls, is he going to be stealing votes in a general election from Trump or Biden?
It's interesting. It appears right now, and this is early, right? We are over a year, or I guess a little bit less than a year from a general election, and RFK has got a lot of campaigning to do. So does Joe Biden. Right now, it appears he takes more votes from Joe Biden than he does from the Republicans. But it's not all that. He does take votes from Republicans in states like in northeastern states like Pennsylvania and places like that are going to be close for the GOP and the Democrats. Here's what I will say about third-party candidates, though. Usually their polling is their high watermark. When it actually gets to the ballot box, we tend to see third-party candidates underperform their polls.
Specifically in Pennsylvania, for the Republicans that RFK is stealing from Trump, what's the issue? Is it vaccinations?
Vaccinations could be part of it. I mean, he is saying some very populist things around vaccinations, foreign policy, taxation, and also, you know what? It's just his last name. There's a lot of name ID and just his ability to kind of pull some voters out. And it's interesting when you look at some of the focus group data, which is qualitative, not quantitative. As people learn more about his positions, he doesn't necessarily keep everybody. And so that's kind of what I mean by the Biden campaign is going to spend some money putting a narrative around him, and he's going to get out there with some voters, and we'll see what happens.
Let's stick with immigration because that was the big story this week. And Trump's comments on immigration, is that impacting swing voters more or less than Biden's handling of the border crisis?
Oh, it is immigration, and it's funny. Decision Desk HQ and News Nation have been tracking number one issues for voters for almost 3 years now, and immigration always is in top two with the economy. And there's a big argument to be made from a voter's perspective. Immigration ties directly into the economy, especially in some of these border states where the influx of immigrants and what's going on there in Texas right now has a direct impact in the local economy. Obviously there's a deal potentially happening in the Senate over the holiday. Obviously Joe Biden's addressing it. This is going to be a huge issue, at least over the next 4 to 5 weeks and certainly through the rest of the year. And it's going to be something Biden's going to have to address. Otherwise, he's going to be answering questions from both his party and swing voters for sure.
Yeah, it's also a big issue in the suburbs, like in a state like Wisconsin.